Okay, so today we'll talk about DAOs. So DAO list tracks over 111 DAOs. Info DAOs talk about the total treasury in DAOs. And then deep DAOs give some information about asset under management, the number of users, active members, and all that. So if we look at active members, for example, look at something like Avi, we're talking about 17,000 members. And then you look at other DAOs, thousands of them, and all that. So in our study today, we'll talk about how DAOs are evolving, the whys behind DAOs, and how you can actually come in and play. So a quick start. Do you use any DAO? Have you been have you are you do you belong to any DAO? If I'm to ask.
I've used I've used the near protocol.
Okay, you've been in a DAO.
Yeah, and when I work with how do you call this people?
Swangate.
Swinegate. When I work with Swinegate, I was one of their DAOs members.
Okay. So you understand the how you join a DAO, how you vote on proposals and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay. What is a DAO in your own opinion?
DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization.
Yeah.
What that means is that it's a smart contract which runs decision by the voting of humans in an
Okay.
organization. So let's say, for example, in a company, they have board members who make decision for the company, and based on your percentage determines your vote in that as a board member of a company. So
Yeah.
when you vote, the number of votes, the higher the vote, then they will accept it. That is what the CEO will carry on or move along, will follow to work with the company. But most cases, uh, there are some issues with the normal incorporation or companies. And it
Yeah.
says that they can be biased. They can be biased, like look at, let's take Apple as example. There was a time they fired Steve Jobs out of his own company he created, but in DAO there's no CEO. There's no CEO. So people who vote are those who have certain amount of tokens that vote on a proposition
Proposal.
or a vote on proposal. So these are people who has tokens. So there's no CEO. So it's the vote. That is what the DAO, the smart contract, will work with, not a CEO. There can be a vote. A CEO may die. Then there's nobody to run the action anymore, to carry out the action or anymore in the company. But it is a smart contract already. So it's like a robot, but not a robot. It's a computer code running. So that is what a DAO is in short.
So many people they actually misconstrue that to be leaderless organizations. No, but I think the best view of it now is if you separate these three words: decentralized, autonomous, in an organization. So decentralized, we are basically talking about uh, distribution of ownership, how powers are being distributed in the network. Autonomous, we say the rules of engagement in this organization. Nobody is too big to be disciplined when there is a need. Nobody's too big to operate in a transparent way. And then you can't just wake up and make changes. So let's say, for example, you feel that this organization should head in a particular direction. You just can't wake up and say, "Oh, yes, I'm the boss, I'm the CEO." Then you move. No, you have to submit a proposal. People have to weigh in, discuss, and then they have to. In short, it's not even submitting just a proposal. DAOs have places where they meet, communication tools. For it could be forums. They have discourse, even things like for example, near have gov.near. Then they discuss things, and then once it's something that they discuss back and forth, they can now push it through, and then say, okay, let's vote on it, and then they vote. So organization does not mean that don't DAOs are not leaderless. So let's say, for example, in a actual company, we have board of directors, we have the CEO, and then we have head of departments, and then we have maybe sub-head of departments and all that. So in the company, everybody's answering to somebody.
Yeah.
So in the same way, the DAOs, for example. So a good example if we is an image. Let me bring out something like the Maker DAO or Uniswap, for example. Now, it's not leaderless. So there has to be people who are involved with maybe giving of grants. So if somebody is submitting grants, there has to be a unit that's all they do is look through this proposal, see if it's worthy, and then push it to the for funding and the rest of it. Then there has to be maybe a technical part of the DAO, and that is involved with people that have technical knowledge. There has to be maybe something like marketing and public relations and the legal representation and the rest of them. So those are not leaderless organizations as people take them to be. So someone is saying, okay, what are some of the characteristics of DAO? The characteristics of DAO has to do with things like they are open for anyone to join. Not only that, they offer offer transparency and all that, and then they have some incentives. They have collective purpose. They have collective principles, and then they have a collective pursuit. So those are the things about that. So there has to be a purpose for it. That why. So DAOs are formed around collective purpose. So they are not just formed. It's their organizations, right? Even if you have something like the Red Cross organization, you know fully aware that okay, this is why they are formed. You have things like the United Nations. So and then DAOs can take different kind of characters. Like I was studying, DAOs can operate as companies. DAOs can operate as corporations. They can operate as networks. They can even be a state. And I think I heard of a a kind of decentralized nation where um for you to be a citizen of that nation, it's not like a decentralized nation. We're talking about an actual country. There is there's a nation called Liver, something that's happened. Oh, goodness.
Okay.
So there is a nation called the Liberland, and Liberland, um, anybody can join. I think I also heard of another nation that for you to be part of that nation, physical nation, you have to the citizenship is like you have to have an NFT to be able to qualify as a citizen. So DAOs can be anything to anyone. So DAOs can also be technical oriented or socially oriented. Um, a good example of a technical oriented DAO is period of developer DAO.
No, I've not heard of it.
So there was this guy from the graph. I think I can't really remember. Is it Nada Beats or something like that? Let me see if I can. Nada. Let me see the graph. Yeah. Nada Beats. He is a software engineer at the graph, involved with developer relations. So he brought about the developer DAO. And
Okay, I know
what
this
he
guy.
okay. So what they do is that they train devs and people get a lot of jobs. You know that. So like this is that it has a purpose. It's technically oriented. People get jobs. I know that. Now another form that can be social. Um, a good example is something like friends with benefits. That so people could just come to meet each other and then maybe they just want to socialize. They just want to hang out. Um, I think you've used Clubhouse before.
No.
Okay, so Clubhouse is like a private chat room where people actually go to discuss. Subjects. I think was it around last year. I actually loved going to Clubhouse to discuss. There are people who discuss the different subject, the nation. That's different chat rooms and everything is private conversations and all that. So DAOs can be anything. It can be technically oriented. It can be social. It can be anything. That's what we say. Now, those are the general stuff, technical and social. So I got some images from the generalist. I actually put the credit here in my study. So DAOs can be protocol DAOs. I'm talking about protocols that are very essential. Things like the like of Uniswap, MakerDAO, Compound, and this network. Now, what people don't understand, DAOs usually start centralized because I think there has to be somebody starts something, right?
Yeah.
So even if later it will be decentralized, that it will not be the hand of token holders to vote and all that. Somebody has to start it. Somebody has to bootstrap the network because if from the onset everything is decentralized as the name stands, there will be chaos. So we have protocol DAOs. These ones are involved with protocol development and all that. Have social DAOs, which I talk about friends with benefits, seed club, and a host of others. Another one is investment DAOs, and this one is very good one. Where the last time we talked about Crava DAO,
Yeah.
where you buy an NFT, and then that's what makes you eligible to the DAO, and the DAO distributes profits and all that. So investment apps are a way where people come together and they want to coordinate the investments. Before now we have the likes of venture capital, the likes of multi-coin capital, A16Z, Alameda Research, and many of these institutions. But there are times where you and I, as maybe investors, we don't get to have opportunity to invest in projects at the early rounds, right? But DAOs change all that. Like the Lao, Meta Cartel, and all that, they invest in projects, or even some of them collect NFTs, of which we'll talk about probably why you may need to start in that. So while grants DAO, this was our self-explanatory. Now, why I love this is that BitDAO, for example, is from Bybit, the DAO. They recently, I think they gave ZK Sync. They gave them, I'm not mistaken, 250, okay, 200 $1 million to develop a platform. So those are things that a DAO is capable of. Then we have services DAO. So service DAOs are basically, okay, individuals can come together and say, okay, we want to pull our service together rather than, right, okay, you know a company like Andela.
Yeah.
So Andela is like a for-profit stuff. There are managers. These are some of the founders, Jeremy Johnson and other. We can bring up an organization where we connect talent with the people that need it. An example, a good example is also something like developer DAO. But developer DAO goes beyond just connecting talent. They train and they provide education, which is also in the same stuff. So service DAOs, you contact them for different works. Maybe you want to do your UI US, or you want to do marketing, or you want to do so DAOs, service DAOs are going to be for anything as well. It could be for maybe you have a DAO, maybe you want to do things like Uber. Uber, for example, Uber can be a service DAO. You want other things, things will evolve, and we'll talk about later the history of DAOs. So we can have media DAOs like the Bankless. Have you watched the Bankless show?
No.
It's one of the best shows out there. We have creators DAO and empower people to create things. We have collector DAOs, those that collect NFTs and all that, Blizzard, Minties, and then the NFT landscape, what constitutes the NFT landscape, how do you form a DAO and all that. So DAOs are the concept of DAOs have long existed before now. So the first DAO did not really take place. It was called the DAO. And it was hacked. Okay, you know the background story between what caused Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, because there was Ethereum and then there was Ethereum Classic.
Yes, yes, yes. It's because of
Hello?
it's because of money that was the act
Stolen.
was stolen. So they stole the money, but there's no way for them to allow developers to allow the money to just go like that. So they also had forked the Ethereum. So that's what brought the whole issues. That's what made Ethereum to have Ethereum Classic and Ethereum.
Okay, um, there was a there are two incidents we'll talk about now. You know, talk about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and all that. When the DAO hack happened, we'll do some calculation now. I'll pull up my calculator, and then we'll check the price of Ethereum. And then they hack, from what I've gathered, talking about 12.7 million Ethereum. So this is 3,400. Let me just use 3,400. 3,400. Let me see if my calculator will be able to wrap itself around it. Multiplied by 12,700,000. Okay. So what's this? It's like
43 billion.
43 billion dollars. Now, let's put it on the screen so that as we're discussing, we'll be discussing in perspective. So this DAO, there are times where there are principles, and then there is something called, should you adjust the principles? Some people they say code is law, right? And the DAOs has happened. Then I think it was what, $150 million. And there was a big fight. Should we, they could have organized a hard fork and then reorg the chain. So you roll back the chain, the history of the chain, such that as if it never happened. And then with that, the hacker will not be able to have access to the funds again. But if you do that, you go against the ethos of decentralization, number one. So it was a big one. It was a big. So that thing, I think it set a bad precedent. Ethereum we see today decided to go against its own principles. But Ethereum Classic is the true chain. Ethereum Classic said, no, we don't want to do that. And though Ethereum is big today, but there's something called precedent. If somebody has done something like in the court of law, they usually use precedence. So let's take, for example, somebody killed somebody and the person went scot-free. And another time, if you're accusing somebody else, then the lawyer of that person will now cite and reference that case and say, so killed somebody and he was freed, and my client should also be free. So the precedent was not a very good one. And then another one was Gavin Wood, because Gavin Wood actually was one of the co-founders of Ethereum. He wrote Ethereum papers and all that. They had a vulnerability that led to them losing 115,000 Ethereum. So if we put that valuation, let's say 8,400, that is over $500 million.
Yeah.
So that tells us that DAOs, in its sense, may not necessarily be decentralized as we put them. So everything comes at a cost. So the DAO landscape we'll talk about. This is the DAO landscape. It's like an image. Which is some of the DAOs operating systems, right, and all that. Okay. So let's take, for example, you want to form a DAO. How should you go about forming the DAO? Because this video is just like a high-level overview of everything. You can use tools like Aragon, Tribot, have Colonial Labs to build your DAO. You don't need to. You could code your DAO from scratch using, if you're an expert programmer, or you could use some tools like WordPress. You click this, and then you're good to go. So if you want to communication in the DAO is also very essential. They communicate with tools like Discord, Telegram, and then Twitter. But I think Discord is more better for communication. In a DAO. I don't think Discord is that good. If you look at something like gov.net, and if you're using it for a kind of forum stuff, it's more better because if you are using something like Discord, as more conversations comes, it goes off and the rest of the. But if you have something like a forum, it's easily searchable by know that. For coordination is another thing. How do you coordinate this properly? So coordinate from Yan Finance and others. So compensation is another thing. How do you compensate people? There are tools like Superfluid, Sabia, that. And that thing is governance, snapshots, and discourse. Have you used Snapshot before?
Snapshots, no.
So Snapchat is an option kind of tool where people can vote on proposals and do all manner of things. So you can see different kind of DAOs, ENS, Gitcoin, and so let me pull up something. I think I voted on the proposal on climate DAO, but let's use a popular one would be, let's say, proof of humanity, for example. You can see the numbers, and then you can see if the proposal is open or if it's closed. The topic, the summary, you can see I voted, and you can see the people that voted and all that. So it's a very good tool for voting. I think they may do an airdrop. I don't know. Yes, I'm not joking. And okay. And then for treasury, to manage your treasury, you're going to use things like maybe Genesis Safe. The Genesis Safe is managing, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I think hundreds of billions of dollars in that treasury. Like platforms are using them to manage their treasure, and they even have this Genesis wallet and all that. So it's very secure, and you can even see many people using it. So some of the features. So for treasury, you want to manage your DAO. So what are some of the reasons why somebody may need to start it DAO?
One of the major reasons is having the disagreement issues. When you are working in a decentralized system, you don't just want to say there are leaders in every aspect of a decentralized systems. It's a company on its own, so there are founders, there are developers, there are HROs, and the rest people working in that organization. So, but when it comes to decisions like say a feature, you want to add a particular feature to the platform, or they want to achieve this particular stuff, it requires those who invested in the token, who invested in the token to have a say. They have to vote if this should be done also, because that will determine either they will make profit or not. So they have the right to decide. Another case scenario is let's say you have a kind of a decentralized workspace, whereby everyone is equal. So in such a situation, when someone bring ideas, there are a lot of people who will disagree most times. Some people want, they have this ideology that it's my decision, you must work with. So if you have such people, it's very difficult for you to make a lot of decisions. So, and at times, if you don't vote, there's no the voting system. Someone might say, last time it's you that made that decision. Look at the outcome now. So there are issues like that. So to avoid those issues, you just make use of a dial and you vote so that when the repercussion comes, everyone will take responsibility because they all voted for it.
Okay. For things like transparency,
Yeah.
maybe pulling of capital. For example, now we've heard of let's say for example, Ponzi schemes in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yeah, people say, okay, invest with us, take this money, and then we do all manner of things. If somebody's to join a DAO, for example, I think there's a DAO called Syndicate. Syndicate is a DAO for building. We've put some of the DAOs for investing. We have something like Flamingo DAO. No, it would have been a very different case if, for example, um, somebody creates an account. I say, okay, everybody sends your money, send the money to this place. I know that it will be a different thing. But DAOs, we can have multi-sig, right? Where we elect people to be in charge of their purse. Then nobody can take anything, even if it means, people, there are people that work for the DAOs. Maybe they are moderators and maybe they are programmers. And they pay these people because it's an organization. So you can't even pay salaries
Yeah.
until
There's a
there's a
vote.
vote. Until there's a vote. So DAOs are very good in things like that. So to enable people to pull up their capital for a greater good, for transparency's sake. And then in subsequent videos, we'll touch more on why you need to start a DAO, how do you start a DAO, and then working for a DAO. You've had experience of working for a DAO. DAOs are very profitable in the sense that, people have been working before now for as freelancers, but DAOs changes almost every single thing. A freelancer is someone who I need to get a job done. I look for somebody and I pay the person. But DAOs, I think you come to work for a DAO when you feel that your interests align with the interests of the DAO. So there is um, you, you're working not just for money. You're working because you want to be part of something big, and then um, you know fully well that this thing is far more better than corporations. So, what is your take on the general conclusion on DAOs before we end this episode?
Okay, I've worked offline before, so I know what it means when it comes to salary. There are a lot of lack of transparency and lack of truth when it comes to salary. The person in charge might said, okay, the funders say you committed this crime, then they won't pay you this amount. Meanwhile, the money that your salary was paid in full, maybe you are sick and you are unable to deliver a job, and which is understandable. We are not machines, so uh, they might pay your money in full due to the fact that you are sick. They're supposed to give your health insurance, but not all companies give health insurance. So But the person will just take the money, say, oh, you are not at work at so time, when you're sick and the rest, you think this and that, this and that. Then the money will go. But when there's that, this is the amount they voted for you. This is the salary. This is the amount they will pay you. They will vote because each person will vote. I think you work in the OWS. You know how we are being paid. They vote. They will vote. This is the amount they will vote for you, and nobody is collecting anything out of your work except only you. That amount they voted, they agreed on for you. That's the only amount you get. So working for a DAO is really, really good, and it makes you to see the transparency, and there's trust. You bring that trust in.
Okay. So in subsequent video, we'll talk about why start a DAO, how to start a DAO, working for a DAO, and the legal issues with DAOs. Also talk about some of the concerns, though we talked on some of them, like maybe how decentralized they are. One of the concerns is around voting power, because in DAOs, let's say for example, there are two people. One has 1,000 coins, and then the other has maybe 2 coins. So there are cases where people say, okay, should we design the protocol in such a way that whether you had 1 million coins or you had just 1 coin, 1 coin equals 1 vote. So a person can just vote. Only one address can only vote with 1 coin and nothing more. Or you vote with as many coins as possible. Because let's say, for example, there's a proposal on ground, and 10,000 people have voted with, let's say, two coins. So we have, which translates to 20,000 votes. Now, but there is somebody that has, because sometimes DAO companies can be part of DAOs, like as a unit. So, and then there's a company that has 50,000 coins. They will just commit to vote. So now you're talking about 50,000 against 20,000. Now you would have looked at it and said, yes, the 50,000 is going to, the highest gets the vote, but it's not really the highest yet. They were talking about a kind of oligarchy where the rich have the highest rule. But enough of that. We talk more about that in a subsequent episode. So thank you very much for being our guest today. And bye.
Right.